Hola, buenas tardes. Pues a nombre de Penguin Random House es un gustazo estar aquí esta tarde, primer sábado de Feria del Libro. Y pues qué mejor que abrir con un gran escritor como es Markus Zusak, que ya nos regaló en su momento La ladrona de libros y que ahora viene a hablarnos de El puente de Clay. Y para ello pues contamos también con dos maravillosas escritoras. Una es Sofía Segovia, que es autora del Murmullo de las Abejas, y Mariana H., que además de ser conductora también es, y bueno, periodista, también ha escrito para La Casa un libro de ensayos sobre neurosis, sustancias y literatura. Así que yo no quiero robarles más el tiempo, solo agradecerles y pues que disfruten al máximo esta presentación. Y gracias a ustedes por estar aquí. Y Markus, es un placer que estés en este país por primera vez y en la Feria de Guadalajara más. Muchas gracias, buenas tardes.
Un aplauso, por favor.
Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Gracias por estar aquí. La verdad es muy emocionante estar presentando esta novela, una novela que me encantó, una novela que creo que tiene mucho que decirnos a nosotros los mexicanos, porque es una novela que se trata de familia. Antes que nada se trata de familia, y entonces en todo momento yo me sentí al leer esta novela en este ritmo que si bien no era mexicano, sí sentí muy australiano. Yo nunca he ido a Australia. ¿Quién ha ido a Australia? Bueno, pues se me hace que de lejos este país me ha transmitido a través de las películas o los documentales un cierto ritmo, y por algún motivo sí sentí este ritmo en esta novela. Yo ya había leído también La ladrona de libros y me sorprendió muchísimo empezar esta novela y encontrar que era en otro lugar y en otro ritmo, hasta en otro idioma. Yo sé que lo escribió ambos en inglés, pero sí se siente a veces el idioma del narrador, aunque se valga de las mismas palabras en inglés. Y entonces sí sentía yo este ritmo australiano, y al principio me maravilló el riesgo que corrió Markus al escribir esta novela, porque dije, es una novela súper diferente a este gran éxito. Y yo creo que mucha gente, y no le he preguntado, pero yo creo, ahorita le preguntaremos, mucha gente le ha de preguntar sobre La ladrona de libros, y esta novela es muy diferente, pero creo que los lectores lo que queremos son las aventuras, y abrir cada libro es una aventura nueva, y dejarnos ir a esa aventura con cada libro. Bueno, tenemos que dejarnos sorprender a cada vuelta de página. Y aquí en esta novela a mí me sorprendió, para empezar, el narrador. Y lo que sucede es que dije, sí, es el mismo autor de La ladrona de libros, porque en aquella novela también me sorprendió muchísimo el narrador. No sé si a ustedes, y si se acuerdan, pero fue una gran sorpresa seguir a este narrador, y acá también, porque es un narrador insospechado. Y también ahorita me gustaría preguntarle cómo encontró este narrador. Pero es un narrador que también me llamó la atención, porque así como el de La ladrona de libros, fue un gran riesgo presentar a ese narrador como narrador de la vida, ¿no? Ahora también, por diferentes motivos, también me sorprendió estos caminos por los que nos llevó, y el riesgo que significó presentar un narrador en primera persona, pero de cierto modo omnisciente, o sea, de cierto modo alguien que lo sabe todo, a pesar de que sea una historia que le contaron y que vivió también. Entonces, en ese sentido me parece que esta novela es valiosísima, pero aquí les va esta cuestión de la familia. Y me parece que en este sentido creo que nos hermana como humanos, donde quiera que seamos, este valor que le damos a la familia, y esto me encantó también descubrirlo. A mí me gusta mucho descubrir esto en las novelas, y darnos cuenta de que no hay fronteras y no hay nacionalidades. Lo que hay es lo que nos importa como humanos, y aquí está esta familia. Y resulta que hay una madre, y nosotros aquí en México también le damos mucha importancia a la figura de la madre. Y esta madre que viene de lejos a empezar una nueva historia a Australia, y que se encuentra con otro muchacho que también tiene que empezar de nuevo y volver a creer de nuevo, y juntos creo que van tejiendo, Penélope como tejedora de la Ilíada y la Odisea, ella se llama Penélope, y resulta que van tejiendo una nueva historia entre los dos, empezar a creer otra vez que es posible crear una nueva historia donde no la había, donde se había esfumado todo. Y resulta que sí crean una nueva historia, pero la madre, sabemos desde el principio que no va a estar. Y esto es algo sorprendente, no va a estar la madre. Y vamos viendo cómo la madre se convierte en el puente entre el padre y los hijos. Y eso para mí también se me hizo que podíamos nosotros entender muy bien y nos puede conmover muchísimo, porque aquí sabemos que las madres son, pues, lo sabemos. A ver, después si alguien me dice que no, si se atreve, si tiene a su mamá al lado, que diga que no, que la mamá es como que la traductora entre el padre y los hijos, o el puente, ¿no? Y resulta que un día no va a estar. Y esta historia se trata sobre ese puente que se deshace y ese puente que tiene que volver a ser construido. Y tiene que ser construido a partir de lo que heredó la madre, las historias que dejó la madre y el tejido que dejó la madre en los hijos. Porque al morir la madre, el padre se queda del otro lado del río. O sea, el puente destruido, el padre se queda totalmente alejado de la conexión que tenía con la familia, porque la conexión primera era con ella, ¿no? Entonces se trata de este muchacho Clay, el hermano del narrador, que se da a la tarea de construir un puente. Y a mí me gusta mucho el nombre de esta novela en inglés, porque simboliza muchísimo, y esta novela está llena de simbolismos. Y resulta que Clay en inglés es barro. En español pues es un nombre nada más, el puente de Clay, lo construyó Clay, pero también el simbolismo del nombre en inglés es buenísimo. Y hay una frase que le dice Carrie, la novia, a Clay, le dice: este puente va a estar hecho de ti, en todo sentido va a estar hecho de ti, y va a estar hecho de las memorias y todo lo que él recupera, para que después sea Matthew el que cuente esa historia. Entonces es una historia que a mí me fascinó, es una historia que además me fascinó la estructura, cómo empieza y cómo da vueltas, como una espiral, hasta que nos lleva a la resolución. Pero es una espiral que nos va a llevar de manera muy tranquila. Y miren, ahí viene Navidad, léanlo en Navidad nadie tiene prisa. Esta es una novela tan hermosa en que vamos a descubrir la vida y la muerte y la familia y el odio y el amor, y lo vamos a descubrir a través de las palabras de Markus Zusak de una manera hermosa, pero sin prisas. No tengan prisa para leer esta novela, los va a llevar de la mano a un muy buen camino, a muy buen final. Se las recomiendo muchísimo. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, yo antes que nada quisiera agradecerte, Markus, porque como ustedes saben, se dice que en México nadie lee, y tener una sala llena para mí es muy emocionante, porque los que nos dedicamos a hacer difusión de lectura para adultos, para niños, para adolescentes, de pronto peleamos contra corriente porque, ay, no, es que en México nadie lee, ay, es que programas culturales no, pero esto demuestra que en México sí se lee. Y que tienes una serie de fans, de lectores y de fans, que son muy importantes para un país como México, que necesitamos construir un país de lectores. Quiero decir, bueno, estoy de acuerdo con lo que dijo Sofía del asunto de la familia. Otra cosa que se parece a las familias mexicanas es que el papá se va, ¿no? Y aquí hay un papá por cigarros, ¿no? Pero es una novela que trata el tema del abandono, pero también es una novela que toca el tema del regreso, y eso es donde creo que está la clave para entender estos personajes. El puente es una figura hermosa, se puede jugar mucho con las metáforas que nos puede evocar la figura del puente, tanto el físico como el que se tiende emocionalmente con los personajes. Yo nada más tengo una hermana, pero lo que me gusta también es que como son 5 hermanos, todos hombres, a través del lenguaje y de la literatura y de este narrador, nos va desvelando la personalidad de todos estos hermanos, las jerarquías, quién es el simpático, quién es el que tiene animales, que le encanta tener mascotas y tiene unos nombres muy particulares. Y Clay, que es el hermano que nunca se ríe y que sí sonríe, y que es un personaje difícil de definir, no por el autor, sino por la misma familia. Entonces, por eso es el centro, Clay, de esta novela. Ahora, también me gusta que Markus juegue con el lector. Desde el principio te dice, voy a leer, todos lo han leído, no, ¿verdad? Me imagino que no todos han leído a Clay. Les voy a leer nada más las primeras líneas para que vean a lo que me refiero. Dice, en el principio hubo un asesino, un mulo y un chico. Aunque esto no es el principio, es antes. Soy yo soy Matthew, y aquí me tienes en la cocina de noche, la vieja desembocadura de la luz, aporreando las teclas sin parar. La casa está sumida en el silencio. Entonces, desde el principio, o sea, es el principio, pero no es el principio. Y piensas a lo mejor que está hablando Clay, pero no es Clay, es Matthew. Y después, cuando empiezan a aparecer personajes, el narrador nos dice, pero espérate, para el momento esto es todo lo que tienes que saber. Entonces, de alguna manera, el narrador te hace cómplice y te va diciendo, vamos haciendo esto juntos, lo vamos a ir contando juntos. Casi para terminar, a mí me recordó en el asunto de la familia a Salinger, a J.D. Salinger, pero no en El guardián entre el centeno, sino Raise High the Roof Beam, que es también una familia numerosa, ahí hay hombres y mujeres, pero la forma que Salinger tiene de presentarnos a estos personajes tan bien construidos me recordó a la familia que nos presenta aquí Zusak. Y finalmente también es una novela que trata el dolor y las ausencias. Entonces, y también hay historias de amor muy bonitas, y hay un homenaje también un poco al primer amor. ¿Ustedes se acuerdan de su primer amor? A casi todos nos rompió el corazón, sí. Pero aquí hay una historia de amor importante y tiene que ver con esos primeros reconocimientos del amor. Así que, bueno, yo celebro también que sea una novela distinta y además para que quede claro que Markus Zusak es el autor del Puente de Clay. Es decir, también es el de La ladrona de libros, pero esto lo define también como un autor completamente independiente de esta poderosísima novela anterior que se llevó a la pantalla, y celebro que nos conmuevas con Clay y sus hermanos y las mascotas de Tommy, y el papá le dicen asesino. Ahí se los dejo.
What happens now?
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm so. First of all, I'm very sorry that I can't speak Spanish, and but I also want to say thank you because I mean, look, you're all here, and I'm amazed. You could be doing anything on a Saturday, and you're here to see me. So thank you. It always reminds me in a room like this that the first time I ever did a book event, it was at a very small library. My first book had just come out, been published in Australia, and they sent me to the other side of Australia to a small town to do a reading. And everyone said, oh, it's a great town. It's got great, the arts, they love books and they love reading there. It's going to be great. And of course, I went to the public library to do the reading, and nobody turned up to the event. That's not even the best part. The best part is that the librarian still made me read from my book, just to her, and that makes me. It almost makes me want to ask: are there any librarians in the room here? Because I think it takes a very special kind of determination to be a librarian, but every writer has to have these kind of humiliations, and because writing is the sort of job that always tests how much do you really want to do it, how much do you really want to do this, and that's where, you know, writing a book like Bridge of Clay or The Book Thief, you know, it really comes from. I do it because I know that if a ray of light came out of the sky and said, your book will never be published, it will never be seen by anybody or read, and you won't be famous, you won't make any money, will you still write it? And the answer, of course, is yes, because I have to. And writing is the only thing that makes me happy in a particular way. I mean, I can be happy with my kids and my animals at home. I can be happy surfing, reading, watching movies, but nothing makes me happy the way writing makes me happy, because it makes me feel useful as well, and that I'm doing the job that I was supposed to do, in this life. So, but that doesn't mean I do it all the time. And that's the one thing I'll say to any of you who want to be writers in this audience, especially if you're younger, that sometimes, you have to be a bit easier on yourself. You don't always have to be working hard all the time. Sometimes you're just cultivating the iron will that it takes to be a writer. And then you sit down one day with no excuses and you say, now I can do it. Now I'm going to do it. And so I don't know, usually in this sort of format, I don't know if what happens, if I'm to speak longer and then there are questions. Keep speaking? All right, I'll speak a little bit. And do you have questions, or do you ask questions, or what do we do?
I do have a question. Ay, perdón, lo digo en español. Sí,
We have lots of questions, ¿verdad
sí.
que sí?
Sí, va a haber una larga sesión de preguntas para darles voz a ustedes, pero justo en el punto de tu trabajo como escritor, hoy en día todos queremos que todo sea rápido e inmediato y con un clic. Y como decía Sofía, dense tiempo, tengan esta calma para poder disfrutar un libro que tiene casi 620 páginas. Y eso también nos demuestra que un libro de 620 páginas, si está bien escrito, lo puede leer todo el mundo y van a tener el tiempo y la dedicación para hacerlo. Si nos fijamos en las sagas que ha habido últimamente para niños y para adolescentes, yo veo chavitos con un tabique así de Harry Potter y se lo echan todo, y después van a otro tipo de sagas, y creo que eso hace una experiencia de lectura distinta. Entonces, Markus, mi pregunta es, ¿cuánto tiempo te tardaste escribiendo este libro? Y si tuviste alguna serie de condiciones de la editorial de decir, no, algo más leve.
So it took 13 years to write this book, and but actually it took 25 years because it was an idea I had when I was 19 years old, and it just took that long to come out of me, and I wrote books in between. But my favourite story actually is about this, and it shows that a lot of the times the best stories come from your family. I'll tell you two stories that come from my family with this book, with this idea. The first was when I was finishing the book last year. I was doing the last edits in July, and I like to work at the kitchen table, and I was doing my last edits, and my daughter was eating breakfast cereal opposite me at the table. And I don't know about all of you with children out there, but my children, they eat like barbarians. And I looked at her eating, eating cereal, and I said to her, I'm trying to concentrate here, could you keep the noise down a little bit? And she looked at me, and the spoon was halfway to her mouth, and she stopped, and she said, "You work?" And I thought about this. I thought about this for a very long time, all day. She went to school, had a good time. At 2 o'clock, finally, after this was at 7 o'clock, at 2 o'clock I went, right, I'm going to count how many words there are in Bridge of Clay. And I went and I looked it up, and it was 128,000 words. And then I divided that by the 25 years, all the times and days, how many days I had used, how many years in 13 years plus other years. And I divided that by I divided 128,000 words by that amount of days. And it came out as 1.9 words per day. Not even 2 words a day. And I thought, well, maybe she's got a point. And so, but then, and there's a second part to the story. When the book was released, my family came with me to an event like this in a bookshop, and this lady came to my daughter at the end, and she said, so are you going to be a writer like your dad? And my daughter looked at her and she said, no. It looks like too much hard work. And I thought, this is great. You know, you have the child in private at home and the child in public, you know. I thought this is great. But the second story, and this shows, I think, what this book is about and the process of it and what it takes to write a book and where our stories come from. And it'll be interesting if this story translates well. Because at the 10-year mark, my wife made me quit writing this book. She said, it's been 10 years, I'm giving you 1 week. And it wasn't 1 week to finish writing, it was 1 week to feel happy with the book. And that week came and went, and I had to take a break. I took 2 months off from writing the book, but when I came back, I thought, just remember things from life to put into the book. Put life back into the book, into the middle of the book where we see the family together. And I remembered something. I remembered being on holiday with my family. And so my son at this time was 4 years old when we were on this holiday. And we were away it was very hot. And I did something unusual. I washed my car. And I even cleaned out the car on the inside. And my car, we have 2 kids, 2 cats, 2 dogs. So my car is full of dog hair, sand from the beach, and lolly wrappers or candy wrappers, you know. But I did something unusual. To brush sand out of my car, I took my t-shirt off and I just started brushing sand out. And my 4-year-old son came around the corner and he saw me without my t-shirt on, and he stopped dead in his tracks. Now, there's always what I found, and it was in the first line that you read so beautifully, that there's always a story before the story or inside the story. And in this case, my children don't call me dad, the more normal expression of father in English. They call me Pop. And the reason they call me Pop was that we read these books where there was a dad in the books, and he was a real idiot. And the kids in the book called him Pop. So they started calling me Pop, you know, because they thought I was like this dad. And so when my son came around the corner and he saw me without my t-shirt, he stopped and he looked at me and he said, hey, Pop, what are you doing here in just your nipples? And I stopped at this moment and I thought, I had nothing to say, you know, I was speechless. But the first thing that I thought was, that's genius. It's brilliant. And only a 4-year-old child can think of something like that. And of course, the second thing I thought was, I might be able to use that. And of course, that exact line is in the book when the family are all eating in the kitchen and the boys are always spilling food on themselves and their mother makes them take their t-shirts off to eat dinner. And they do this every day during a whole summer. And their dad takes his t-shirt off as well. And then he asks, should your mother take her shirt off as well? And it's Clay who says no. So he tries to stop it, but she does it because she's beautiful and tough and she loves these boys. And of course, when they see her underwear and how crippled and old it is, they know it. They say the last line is that they knew what to get her for Christmas, you know. And sometimes I think I should write a short story which is about these boys going underwear shopping for their mother, you know. So I think I wanted to put all of these elements of life into this book, much the same way that there were elements of life put into the Book Thief, you know. And so I just wanted. It is difficult, and I didn't realise that it's 620 pages in Spanish. It's only 580 in English. So but it's a book that shows a boy who makes a bridge that's made of him, but the book really, I think, is made of me. And every word in it is deliberate and there for a specific reason. There is not one word that is not accounted for in that book, even if there were only 2 words written per day. So it's a book that means the world to me.
Bueno, es que a veces se escribe lejos de del teclado. A veces me parece, Markus, que tenemos que evolucionar para poder escribir la historia que nos llama, evolucionar como seres humanos. Y es que a mí me parece que esta novela es una novela muy, muy humana. Y yo te quería preguntar, porque mientras leía e iba descubriendo también a Clay, que sí es parece ser el más silencioso de los hermanos, porque es el que tiene el secreto más grande que guardar, y no lo vamos sabiendo hasta el final. Resulta que Clay es es el receptor de las historias familiares. Él escucha a las historias familiares, pero no es quien cuenta esta historia, y entonces vuelvo al narrador. Me parece una decisión muy interesante, y también poco a poco ir descubriendo que era muy acertado que fuera Matthew el que contara esta historia, no Clay. A pesar de que Clay lo sabe todo y atestiguó muchas más cosas, que Matthew fuera el que contara. ¿Cómo encontraste este esquema en esta novela, que además es de una construcción compleja? Es de una construcción con varias líneas del tiempo que hay que ir también descubriendo junto con pues, cada página, ¿no? Entonces, yo quería preguntarte eso, ¿cómo Matthew y por qué no Clay? No es queja. It's okay. I loved it.
Yes, it's, when it comes to the question of how did I do that, it was with great difficulty. But Clay, to me, was the only person in the book that I never considered could tell the story or could write the story about himself, because he's a very heroic character and he's also a very quiet character. And even though he loves the stories, he's not, because of what's happened to him, he's actually stopped talking for the most part. And so first, Carrie Novak, his best friend, had a younger sister. She's no longer in the book. She was the first narrator. For 6 years, I worked and worked and worked with her as a narrator, and then I thought, I just don't like where this is going, and then I changed to Matthew. And then I changed back to Maggie, who was the first narrator, and there was a bit of a struggle there for a while. Then I tried using Penelope, their mother, who has died, as the narrator, and I thought, I can't do that. I had Death as the narrator in The Book Thief, and now I have a dead character as the narrator. I'm just going to be the death guy, and so I settled on Matt, and actually, no one steal this idea. Originally, it was going to be put together like a jigsaw puzzle, but then I couldn't have Matthew do that, but I settled on Matthew because he was the most like Clay, and he feels responsibility for the family. And Clay feels responsibility for what has happened to the family. And what I realise now, when I first discovered that Matthew was the right narrator, was on the first page, where in English, what I realise, what I think about writing is like climbing a mountain, but there's the promise of a sandpit or a playground at the top, where you're playing with words. And in English on the first page, when I had Matthew narrate, he says, I went out to an old backyard in an old backyard of a town, and I went, I just repeated this word, I was just playing then. And then a few moments later, he digs up the typewriter and he calls it perfect pirateless treasure, as in a treasure without pirates. But pirateless is not a word in the English language. It's a made-up word. And I thought, I'm starting to play now. And I know that when I've done all this hard work and I start playing, that's when I'm coming to life again. and that's when I know the book is going to work. But also by the end of the book, and this isn't really giving the book away, Matthew says at one point, you see he's waiting so much for Clay to come home. And this story is Matthew's way of proving how much he loves his brother and that he wants him to come home. And he calls him both Clay the boy and he calls him Clay, who was also the man of this house. And you have the oldest brother, who has been the man of the house for so long, calling his second youngest brother the real man of the house. So you can see that there are there's a lot of love in that comment and a lot of truth. And so that's, to me, Matthew is writing the book to prove how much he loves his brother. Not that he needs to prove it, but it's a realization of that truth. So yeah, I hope that I'm making sense.
Estamos hablando de personajes masculinos, pero eso no quiere decir que si bien la familia, digamos, estos hermanos y el papá llevan el hilo conductor de la historia, las mujeres juegan un papel bien importante. Por supuesto, Penélope, que tiene un papel protagónico importantísimo, pero hay muchas mujeres, y la mamá también, que juegan un papel, me parece, muy cómplices de estos personajes. Cuéntanos de algunas otras mujeres que aparecen.
Yeah, I mean, I can first talk about that by saying I remember getting a very bad review for the book, saying that, basically the women in the book were not strong. And I was quite amazed by that comment, because you have a girl who's an apprentice jockey who's extremely tough and beautiful, but tough and ambitious. She's not just prancing around in the paddocks with ponies, she's in a very harsh world of horse racing, and that's Clay's best friend. And then you have Penelope, the boy's mother, who appears to be quite soft but is extremely strong, and she's the heart of that family, and her story is the heart of the family's story. And even Matthew, when he starts telling her story at the end of her first chapter, when she leaves Poland in Eastern Europe to make a big journey to Australia, he says, and that was how us Dunbar boys began. Or how us Dunbars began. And so she's such an important figure. And then you have a smaller character called Abby Hanley, who is what you're alluding to of the first love in people's lives. And she was Clay's father's first love, who leaves him. She has this, and it's seen as a real courage to leave, because it's not the right relationship. And she comes back later to give Clay the last big moment that makes him go and finish the bridge. And so I don't only think of them as, say, a strong female character. What I'm doing all the time is I'm saying, how does this make the story work? And so in Abby Hanley's case, I really like the idea that you have a small character come and creates a big moment that you didn't see coming, because she's only a small character. So I love the idea that you can be surprised in novels, whether it's by an image on the page or a moment that actually happens. And the women in the book were instrumental in that happening.
Well, just a comment. And I agree with you absolutely. The women here disappear, in a sense, but they don't, because they left their mark. It was a very, very strong mark the Penelope left. Que dejó Penélope en sus hijos. Tanto que cuando el papá se tiene que retirar de la familia, los hijos permanecen unidos, porque la mamá les enseñó a ser familia, y no hay más fuerza que esa. Y luego la novia de Clay también me parece que le da mucha fuerza para poder superar lo que tiene que superar y después regresar a terminar el puente y todo, pero él apoya muchísimo en ella. Y sí, fuerte físicamente y fuerte de valiente, pero también fuertes, aunque ya no estén. A mí me gustaron mucho las mujeres de esta novela. No me explico eso que te dijeron. No. Les van a gustar las mujeres. Y otra cosa, el padre también me encantó, porque él se apega tanto al amor, es algo contrario a esto que les vamos a decir, se apega tanto al amor que la destrucción lo deshace. Entonces, él encontraba también su fortaleza en las mujeres, y me gusta mucho eso.
Oye, y aparte el papá habla con el mulo, o sea, le habla. El mulo es, o sea, es una mula, o sea, es un personaje raro, pero habla con él el papá, ese es otro detallazo. Oigan, tenemos tiempo para preguntas y respuestas, solo les pedimos que sean muy concretos para que podamos, la mayoría de ustedes, bueno, la mayor cantidad de preguntas. Entonces, allá está nuestra chica de apoyo. Y anímense, porque luego se anima uno y luego ya todos quieren preguntar y ya no nos da tiempo.
Acá hay una.
Y también nos decía Markus antes de la presentación que si tienen alguna pregunta de la ladrona de libros, que él no va a decir eso ya pasó y enterrarlo, sino que también se vale, porque ustedes son sus lectores.
Pero que ahorita el consentido es Clay.
Sí.
I can also quickly say something while we're waiting. I know you have the microphone now, but you talked about the father leaving for cigarettes and not coming back. In this book, what happens is he's left for a long time, and when he comes home, he finds some cigarettes hidden in the piano. But the mother and father never smoked. She was a high school teacher, and she took the cigarettes from a student and forgot to give them back. And one night, just for a joke, they smoked the cigarettes. And then when he comes home, he warns his sons that something is different in the house by lighting the cigarette. And so, yeah, that's the story of men and cigarettes in Bridge of Clay.
Hi.
Hey.
I have read all your books, and my question is, how do you make these connections between brothers and families in your books?
How do I make connections with brothers and family in
families.
books?
How do you do that? How do you take these characters, these strong women, these fathers, these kids, and make them real?
Okay, great question. It's actually less to do with the idea of brothers or family. What I'm trying to do all of the time is the thing that made me want to be a writer was reading novels that I knew obviously were not true, but I believed them when I was inside them. And what I'm trying to do is write something whole and complete so that you believe what I'm telling you. And so it's a little bit like building a brick wall. And what you want to do is you want to make the brick wall the perfect size with the right amount of bricks and no gaps in the wall, but not too many bricks either. And so when I'm thinking more about relationships. And so, for example, a good example I can give I'll give one from The Book Thief. When Max, who is hiding in Liesel's basement, comes, I needed her and Liesel to bond together, okay? And I didn't know how to do that. And then I thought, she's learning to read. He's going to write a small book for her, a picture book. And this picture book became such an important part of the novel. And it's brought them together. In the case, say, of a character like Carrie, Clay's best friend in Bridge of Clay, I had huge problems with her. And the biggest problem I had was that the first narrator was always a bit against Carrie because Carrie was so perfect. And I had this very perfect character in the book, but because her sister was telling the story, brushing up against her, it was okay. But when Matthew narrated, she just became very boring because he wasn't against her, you know? And so I needed Carrie. I thought, how do I get the reader to love Carrie? And then I thought, this is how you do it. And this is the true answer to your question. To build relationships, to build anything in a book, you have to make the characters do something. Okay, the reason I love Rudy in The Book Thief is because he turns himself into Jesse Owens, you know? And that's why we love him because of something he did. So make the characters do something. That's how I build the relationships. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for making me cry with every character.
Oh, thank you. That made my whole trip. Thank you.
Sí, buenas tardes. Aunque no es el tema de ahorita, pero me gustaría saber cuál fue la inspiración de la novela de Ladrona de Libros, que muchos de nosotros ya la hemos leído, e inclusive hay una película.
So, I'm the youngest of 4 children, and of course, that makes me the spoiled one. And but I'm, you know, the first line, the first sentence in Anna Karenina, the Tolstoy, is, you know, the great line that all happy families are the same, but all unhappy families are unique in their own way. Every spoiled child claims to be uniquely spoiled in their own way. And the way I was spoiled was that because I was the youngest, I got to spend the most amount of time with my mum and dad at an actual meaningful age. So not when I was a baby through 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. I spent most time with my parents alone when I was 13, 14, 15, and I would say, can you tell me about that crazy guy in your hometown, or the day your mum did this to you? They weren't stories about World War II. I didn't say, can you tell me about the war? But these parts of their lives where they grew up in Germany and Austria, they told me about what happened and what was happening. And I thought, and I'm going to give you something that I just realized now in the last few months, was originally I was going to write a true story about my mum, a biography. And she talked about how when American soldiers came to Munich, they couldn't say Munich properly, the city name. Instead of calling it München, they called it Munchen. And they had a radio show at lunchtime at midday, and they called this, they called it, you know, the English word lunchtime, so that they called the radio show Luncheon in Munchen. And I thought this would be a good title for a book. And could you imagine the book? What's a better title, The Book Thief or Luncheon in Munchen? But after a while, I thought, you know, I'm a novelist. I'll write a very short 100-page novel based on my mum and dad's experience. And it turned into a 580-page book that meant everything to me. And so it was my parents' stories that gave me the inspiration. And it was stories of children giving bread to Jewish prisoners and other so-called criminals on their way to concentration camps, and coming out of the ground in the morning and the sky was burning and the city was burning, but the ground was full of ice, you know. And I thought nobody would read this book, you know, and I know it's because of that book that I'm here, you know, even though Bridge of Clay is the current book. But I'm so grateful to that book and to all of you, because I know that when you read the book and then you try to give it to one of your friends, and the friend says, well, what's it about? And you say, well, it's set in Nazi Germany, it's narrated by death, nearly everybody dies. And for all I know, it's 620 pages long. You'll love it, you know. And so I'm so grateful to you for your question and for reading the book and possibly giving it to your friends and family. So thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes. Eduardo Betanzos, de Radio México Internacional. Surge una pregunta. ¿Cómo vives emocionalmente el desgaste de tus personajes cuando lo escribes, cuando los lees? ¿Viene llanto? ¿Sonríes? ¿Qué pasa con el autor? Gracias.
Okay, that's a lovely question. Thank you. And I live in 2 worlds. I live in this world and I live in the world of the book that I'm writing. And both of the worlds are real to me. And I want to be able to roll out of bed in the morning and land in the world of the book. And that's when I know I'm writing at my best. when I decided with Bridge of Clay to read through the book with people, like with my wife, with other trusted work colleagues. And once I was, at the end, really just crying as I was reading. And one of my friends said to me, "Who is that in your real life that you're crying for?" And I said, "Don't you get it? It's for them. It's for them. They're real to me." And so I live every moment with the characters. And if I'm not feeling the right emotion, so people said to me, when people say, "Oh, thanks very much," when they read The Book Thief, they say, "Thanks. You made me cry on public transport." I always say to them, "You should have seen me when I was writing it. I was a complete mess." And so, yeah, and if I don't, and people say, "You must have felt such a sense of loss." And I said, "I felt great." When I was writing the end of The Book Thief and I was bawling my eyes out, it's like, this is the championship round here. If I'm not crying, I'm not doing it properly. So I want to feel everything that the characters feel, because if I can't feel it, how can any of you feel it? So I'm tense when the characters are tense. I'm happy when they're happy. I'm happy when they're miserable, because if I'm feeling miserable, I know I'm doing the right thing, so I'm happy. I'm happy if I'm feeling what the characters should be feeling. And lastly, when my publisher rang me, when the day Bridge of Clay was going to be printed, she rang me and she said, "You must be so ecstatic. You must be so happy." And I said, being a typical writer, I said, "No, I'm actually a bit miserable." Because after all of these years complaining about all of the characters in Bridge of Clay and how I couldn't get them right, I was suddenly faced with the question of, how the hell am I going to live without them? And I think that's how you should feel at the end of a book.
Sí, con eso terminamos. Muchas gracias. Un aplauso para Markus, Sofía Segovia.
Pues a nombre de Penguin Random House, agradecerles. Qué lástima que solo sean 50 minutos que podemos escuchar a Markus, pero bueno, esperemos que regrese pronto a visitarnos con más libros, y va a estar firmando en el módulo de firmas en el área internacional, así que ahí pueden verlo ya ahora a las 5, si no les estoy inventando. Gracias otra vez y que pasen buena tarde.